This is relatively a new studio. Gabriel and I were driving around and saw this place for rent. And it's 5,000 square feet and it's 3,000 a month, and we've been here 5 years now. We're in Boyle Heights, and the truth is, it's like three blocks west of Concord Street. And I actually grew up on Lanfranco and Concord. So I'm home again. You know, it's like Cheech Marin, born in East LA. Although the truth is, he tells me that he was actually born in South Central. I was born in Boyle Heights. Hi, I'm Frank Romero, and this is my studio, and welcome. I just got back from a very wonderful vacation on the island of Kauai in Hawaii, and I was kind of blessed with the fact that I almost did a painting a day. So we were there for a month, and I did something like 30 paintings, and they're landscapes of a tropical paradise. And I'm really excited about them. I had my dealer here just a minute ago, and he saw them for the first time. And I'll probably work out an exhibition with Eastern Projects in Chinatown. I've actually taught a class for almost 20 years at Plaza School in low-fire ceramics, which is an interesting product that I've developed over the years. I use a Soldate 60, which is a high fire clay, and I fire it to a medium-high temperature, and then I color it with low fire glazes, which are brilliant in color. And I developed this technique over 25 years. The first time I ever studied ceramics was at the East Side Community Center, the old Jewish community center in Boyle Heights. And I studied with a young ceramicist named Lindley Mixon, and he was out of the solder classes at Scripps College, and I was 19 years old at the time. So I've worked with ceramic literally all my life. As soon as classes start up at Plaza, I'll be back to my old space. The way I work is kind of interesting in that I carry a small Lumix camera with me that fits in my pocket, and everywhere I go, rather than doing sketches, which artists used to do traditionally, I take pictures all day long, and then make 4x5 prints and work off of them in my terrace studio, which is on the 3rd level of this house in the small village of Mermont. Even the French consider themselves Latino. We're all based on Spanish and Latin culture. The language. So there's an incredible similarity. A lot of people who speak Spanish are kind of amazed that they can understand French. And it's difficult for me because I have a difficult time with languages. But I've lived in France for almost 25 years now, and I'm finally picking it up. The village I live in, the family that we're closest to his name is Jacques Ibarra, and he was born in Paris, but of Spanish descent, and actually as a 6-year-old child spent his time in the Civil War in Spain, the Spanish Civil War, and I think saw like two of his uncles being killed in that conflict. So I'm very close to the Ibadas, and it's kind of fascinating that we share a heritage. I'm traditionally a painter, and of course, so I'm a multimedia artist. I do a lot of work with cut wood and painted with acrylic. So I do a lot of work with acrylic and some with oil. It's just because of the COVID epidemic, we've been stuck in my own house in Beverly Hills, and I've had to paint basically in acrylic or watercolor. It's just easier. I think in the 50s, every young man, worth his salt, knew every single car that Detroit produced and could identify them on the street. And this all came back to me when I met Gilbert Lujan, who was part of our art collective, Los Four. And he was always talking about lowriders and being Chicano and all of this stuff, which was a new concept to myself and Carlos Almaraz, who I was sharing a house and studio with. And I started dealing with car imagery back then. Maybe it's kind of nostalgic. It's still basically the 50s and 60s. It's the car culture I knew, and of course, I became kind of fascinated with the idea of a lowrider, which is basically a 38, 39 Chevy, among other things. Yeah, and I've sort of built a career on it. There's a picture that I'm looking at that you can't quite see it, but it's a French Citroën, and it's a panel truck, and it's just fascinating to me. So I'm not only involved in American cars, but now world cars, French cars and the like. I think when we talk about the inspiration of Monet and Cézanne, I had an art teacher in high school. His name was George May, and he came out of the Art Institute of Chicago and was always talking about the French Impressionists. And somehow, I think I didn't know it at the time because I thought I was kind of my own self-taught artist and all that stuff, but obviously his words influenced me a great deal. And as I say, I ended up living in France half the year, and all those artists are still part of my inspiration. I go to all the museums in Paris, and I hang out at the bistros where Picasso and some of the other great artists hung out and had breakfast, and it's just part of who I am today. When I started painting, I worked from a colored background that maybe me or an assistant just places on a canvas, and then I work directly from an 8x10 color print, and I draw with my brushes and blend colors directly on the canvas. I'll put down a yellow and then blend it with a little light green and get a yellow green and stuff like that. And everyone always comments on my color palette being so magnificent. And I don't know what that means, except that it's just, I've had a few instructors who have mentioned color theory, and I can't remember. I have to mention that I spent a great deal of my life and studio and dwellings with Carlos Almaraz, and he was very impressed reading about the murals of in Mexico of Bonampak. And he mentioned to me that the favorite colors in Bonampak were black, red, turquoise, and maybe some auxiliary colors like that. And maybe that's why I wear a turquoise bracelet. I lived in the Southwest for almost 20 years, and in Taos, New Mexico. And quite frankly, my father was born in Santa Fe. I've always liked the brilliance of oil paint, but I've really, because of COVID and the difficulty in dealing with a lot of oil products, I've switched over exclusively to acrylic painting. But the colors are brilliant now, and they weren't maybe 20 years ago. You have a lot of pearlescent, or what they call nacreous colors, and you can sort of see them when you blend them in with other colors. You get the most fascinating nuances of, like even painting flesh. It's just fascinating, all you can do with acrylic paint. Chicano is a very interesting word. Gilbert Lujan had some ideas that where it came from in Mexico, Chicano and all that stuff. And when Carlos and I first heard the word, we found it kind of offensive. And I don't want to be a Chicano, but he talked us into it, and we were identified as like at the Los Four exhibition at LACMA as the first Chicano exhibition in a major museum, in Los Angeles. So it's just become part of my identity. And now I call myself a Chicano, and then because of my New Mexico background, Hispano, and then because of my European background, Latino. So they're all words I use interchangeably. In English, the term is Hispanic, but again, I'm really identified as because I came around in the 70s as a Chicano artist. And it's just part of my identity. Plaza de la Raza was one of these curious things that just kind of happened. The first uh, indication I had was uh, Carlos had met Carlos Almaraz had met Margot Alberts at some point, and he would correspond with her, and he heard about the fact that she was trying to build a children's art museum or a school in Lincoln Heights, and it kind of started to happen, and she knew Carlos pretty well. She had long conversations with him. He spoke fluent Spanish, and she invited him to teach the first art class in Lincoln Park before the buildings were built. And because of that, he asked me to come help him, and we decided to, because of my background in ceramics, we decided to teach the kids how to make clay figurines. And that was the very first class ever held in Lincoln Park before the school was built. The school is a wonderful idea. You can study mariachi, you can study guitar. There's the famous young piano student who got a full scholarship to USC. I mean, we've had incredible good fortune with the teachers there. I think we even have classes in yoga and dance. One of my personal assistants here for 20 years, David Fleury, ended up teaching classes at Plaza. And as I say, I've actually, am I the oldest teacher still around? Since I am in my 80s now, and I guess, and I say I've been there for 30 years, so I've maybe started in my mid 40s teaching classes at Plaza, and I've gone through 3 directors, and I was influential in hiring them all, and they've done very well for Plaza. You can't see, but right behind me there's another half of the studio, maybe 25,000 square feet, filled with boxes. And yes, I collect antiques, and quite frankly, Hispanic weavings. And they were, if you understand anything about history of the Southwest, when Spaniards came to New Mexico, they grew sheep and wool, and then they carded it and made it into blankets, and they taught that to the Navajo and the Pueblo Indians, and that's how we ended up with Navajo blankets. But Hispano weavings were really part of the culture of the Southwest. You always hear about the famous weaving village of Chimayo and stuff like that. And I have collected Hispanic weavings for the last 50 years. This is my ex-wife and our collection, but it's a difficult thing to collect 200 or 300 Spanish carpets and Navajo carpets, and it's all the same culture. And we love the stuff, but we really can't keep it. We're discussing maybe an exhibition at a major auction house in the near future. I've curated a lot of major exhibitions. Car shows at Avenue 50. One-man shows or with my wife at Plaza de Raza. We're discussing about doing a show that I did at the Craft and Folk in the 80s called the Murals of Aztlan, where we ask some of the best Chicano painters, muralists, to create murals within a museum context and have people come and talk to the artists. So curating has become really a much of my what I do in my life nowadays. I curate 3 or 4 shows a year, and it's very exciting for me. And that way I get to meet young artists, new people. I just met some artists last week, and I've asked them to bring their portfolios so I can see their work. David Fleury was a young man. He's well known now, but he was my assistant for 20 years. And he came up in that respect. Well, you give them encouragement. If I like their work, I do. This is a new studio, but the walls are going up now, and eventually I'll have exhibitions there. I've curated a Christmas show for almost 30 years now, and basically I ask young artists to show their work or show and sell their work, because I designed it as part of the old Los Flor thing of working together as a cooperative to get something done, so that we could make some money during Christmas, because otherwise, it's very difficult for an artist, especially on the holidays, to make money. And now everybody has Christmas shows, but I was the very first one to do it. I'm Frank Romero. Thanks for visiting.